Hi, it's Chris again with Nightfall Audiobooks. I have for you Call Waiting from R.L. Stine. It is a point horror novel. I like doing the point horror series. It's really important to get out of Shadyside, off of Fear Street, and explore R.L. Stine in a different environment. I like these self-contained stories. I like seeing what Stine can do in a one-off environment and not related to any other larger universe. If you want a very, very good point horror novel by R.L. Stine, I highly recommend his first, Blind Date. It is his first young adult horror novel. It doesn't have any of his usual tropes, and it's very, very refreshing to read something that was not refined yet. It's almost like a rough draft. So if you want very, very good R.L. Stine in general and fantastic point horror, I recommend Blind Date. So back to Call Waiting. I have had this in my library for a number of years. I used to belong to the Scholastic Book Club. I think it was called Midnight Fright. I used to have a pencil from that, and it was bright pink, and it said Midnight Fright on the side, and I never sharpened it and used it or anything. I don't know where it is. I would get like a care package every other month or so. It would be stickers, bookmarks, obviously a book. I've got quite a few bookmarks still in my collection that are on my wall in my studio. So I don't remember anything at all about this novel. Stine really likes the telephone. If you read Wrong Number and Wrong Number 2, one of the characters' father works for the telephone company, and she has access to this ridiculous telephone, has call waiting, has conference calling, has hold. You know, we take these things for granted with our cell phones today, but you have to realize these books were written 1994, 1995. Telephones were still a big deal. We had corded phones back then, wireless technology. The DECT standard, that's newer. In the grand scheme of technology, Wi-Fi is extremely new. It's only 20 years old. It hasn't been around all that long, and we've gotten a lot of maturity out of Wi-Fi. Anyway, R.L. Stine really likes to play with the telephone. He likes the idea of isolation with the phone. Ski Weekend and Truth or Dare are both examples of that. He likes frightening phone calls. He likes people to call and leave threatening messages. In The Babysitter 2, another point horror series, he had one of his characters create their own telephone to use without their parents' permission. He loves phones. I haven't read this in over 20 years. I don't remember a thing about it. For some reason, I finished the last novel I read, which was Truth or Dare, and I said to myself, you know what, it is finally time to revisit Call Waiting and see what this is all about. This is being read to you from my personal collection as a novel. So if you hear thumbs scraping over the pages, that's what that noise is. I really, really try to edit all that stuff out, but I can only do so much. So let's get started. What should I do next? I have no idea. Please write me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I'm also on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I have a Patreon page as well, patreon.com/nightfallaudiobooks. So tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me tell them tales from R.L. Stine. Thank you very much for listening, and let's get started. Welcome to a Nightfall Audiobooks production of Call Waiting by R.L. Stine, a point horror novel, Book 15. Chapter 1. The frightening phone calls began less than an hour after Karen had the fight with Ethan. 1 week before the fight, on a snowy, bone-chilling Saturday night, Karen Masters pulled her blue Corolla onto Jefferson, Ethan Street. The tires crunched over the salted pavement as Karen eased to the curb and cut the headlights. She reached to turn the ignition key, but her friend Micah Davis grabbed her arm to stop her. "Karen, if you turn off the engine, we won't have any heat. We'll freeze." Karen stared thoughtfully out the windshield, past the clicking wipers at the falling snow. "I know," she said, "but I'm nearly out of gas. If we have to wait a long time." Micah unlatched the seatbelt so she could turn to Karen. "This is so crazy. I don't know what you hope to see," she said, shaking her head. In the shadowy light, Karen caught Micah's disapproving frown. The wipers scraped across the windshield. The snowflakes were large and wet. Before they were brushed away, the light from the street lamp made them glisten like teardrops. I don't know either, Karen sighed, resting both gloved hands on the wheel. It's a rotten night for spying, Micah complained in her velvety voice. She tossed her blonde hair behind her shoulders. Then she ducked her head lower into the collar of her down coat. I mean it. This is really crazy, Karen. I know, Karen agreed. I just have to see. Her voice trailed off. See what? Micah demanded. I have to see if Ethan lied to me, Karen said. She turned off the engine. The wipers stopped halfway across their route, then slid into place. Good. Silence. I can't stand that click, 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 she exclaimed. You're a nervous nut, Micah accused. You've been a nervous nut for days. It's all Ethan's fault, Karen insisted. Her dark eyes stared straight ahead. She had parked at the top of the low, sloping hill that led down to Ethan Parker's house. From this spot, she could see the Parker's sprawling redwood ranch-style house and the short driveway that led to the garage at the side. A spotlight over the front door cast a bright rectangle of light over the snow-covered front lawn. Look at you, Micah said sharply, grabbing the sleeve of Karen's bulky sweater. You're so pale, Karen, and you look positively anorexic. It's dark. How can you see if I'm pale or not? Karen replied shrilly, tugging her sleeve free. And I'm not anorexic. Everyone in my family is very thin. She pulled off her wool ski cap and shook her short dark hair free, and then she added pointedly, especially since we don't gobble down Kit Kat bars every minute. Micah had a serious Kit Kat problem. Wish I had one now, Micah muttered. She gazed out at the falling snow. I can't believe I agreed to come with you tonight, she exclaimed. Micah pushed her hair back with both hands. She had piles of curly blonde hair, and she was constantly playing with it, pushing at it, tugging at strands, twirling them around her fingers. She shivered. What do you think we're going to see, Karen, before they find us frozen solid inside this car? Ethan broke our date tonight, Karen replied, her voice revealing her emotion. She crossed her arms in front of her chest. I want to see if he lied to me. I want to see what time he gets home. What's that going to prove? Micah demanded. If he gets home after midnight, is that going to prove he was out with Wendy Talbot? Karen started to reply, but the windshield suddenly glowed brightly. Headlights from behind them, an approaching car. Maybe that's him, Karen whispered. Both girls slid down low in their seats. The bright lights rolled over the windshield. The car, a dark Taurus wagon, rumbled past them and kept going, moving slowly over the snow-slicked street. False alarm, Karen said. She glanced at the dashboard clock, but it was a blank because the engine was off. Micah sat up and tapped her long fingernails on the door. You know, just because you saw him talking to Wendy in the hall after school doesn't mean they have a date or anything. I told you, Karen replied sharply. It was the way he was talking to her. He was leaning over her, and when they laughed, she put her hand on his shoulder like she owned him or something. Karen, really? Okay, Karen muttered. Not like she owned him, but she was definitely coming on to him, and he was loving it. So, Wendy is a flirt, Micah said, shrugging. Everyone knows that. What does that prove? Why are you defending her? Karen demanded. She immediately thought, of course Micah would defend Wendy. Micah is a flirt, too. Micah is always coming on to boys, putting her hand on their arm as they talk. Micah always stands really close to boys, so close it makes them uncomfortable, and she's always purring at them with that sexy voice she has. Micah is just like Wendy, Karen thought, and then she scolded herself for thinking such cruel thoughts. Micah is my best friend after all, Karen reminded herself. Micah is always there for me. She's here for me right now. I'm not defending Wendy, Micah insisted patiently. I'm just trying to prove to you that you're crazy. She laughed. I mean, what are friends for? Karen didn't join in the laughter. Don't you understand, Micah? This is the first Saturday that Ethan and I haven't been together. Karen, the same day I saw him drooling all over Wendy Talbot in school, he called me and said he had to work the late shift at the Sizzler and couldn't see me Saturday night. Am I supposed to believe that? Yes, Micah replied quickly. Listen, Karen, you've got to stop acting so jealous. Really. If Ethan broke up with me, Karen started, but the words caught in her throat. She couldn't bear to think about it. Oh, it's so cold in here, Micah complained with a loud groan. Feel my nose. Go ahead. Feel it. It's totally frozen, Karen. I can't feel your nose. I'm wearing gloves, Karen told her. Ethan isn't going to break up with you to start going with Wendy Talbot, Micah assured her. But even if he does, Karen, she grabbed Karen's sleeve. Even if he does, it isn't the end of the world, you know? I mean, really, there are lots of other guys. You can't go totally to pieces, even if Ethan is interested in someone else. Karen's dark eyes flashed. You know something, don't you? She accused shrilly. You know something about Ethan and Wendy, and you're not telling me. No way, Micah cried. No way. I don't know anything. I'm just trying to help you. You know, I'm trying to give you a reality check, Karen. You're pretty, you're smart. Even if Ethan dumps you, you won't have any trouble. Stop it, Karen snapped, her voice trembling. I don't want to talk about it. Micah lowered her eyes and fiddled with the charm bracelet on her wrist. Sorry, she murmured. No, I'm sorry, Karen replied quickly. You're right, Micah. I'm a nervous nut. I didn't mean to snap at you. You're a true friend for coming along with me tonight. Really? Micah traced her finger along the clouded-up passenger window. Well, I just don't get it, she said softly. I mean, if you think Ethan is out with Wendy, why aren't we parked in front of Wendy's house? I don't want to see them together, Karen replied. I really don't. I just want to see what time Ethan gets home. Micah rubbed her hand in a wide circle on the passenger window, trying to make a peephole. We can't see anything now, she complained. The windows are covered with snow, Karen. It's like being inside an igloo. Karen only heard part of what her friend was saying. She had drifted into her unhappy thoughts. Once again, she pictured Ethan parked somewhere with Wendy. She pictured his arm around Wendy. She imagined them snuggling close, kissing, while the snow floated down over Ethan's car. You didn't hear a word I said, Micah accused, tapping Karen several times on the shoulder of her sweater. Hey, snap out of it. Oh, sorry, Karen glanced around. I'd better scrape the windshield. I didn't realize. She popped the trunk, pushed open the car door, pulled on her wool cap, and was immediately greeted by a blast of cold air and wet snowflakes. I have a scraper in the trunk, she told Micah. Close the door, Micah screamed. It must be 20 below. Karen started toward the trunk, her boots crunching over the soft snow that blanketed the street. The wet snowflakes tickled her face. Soft as a kiss, she thought dreamily. Ethan, where are you? Leaning against the trunk, she gazed down the hill to his house. The bright spotlight on the front of the house caught the falling snow, making the flakes white against a low purple sky. The slanted roof was blanketed with snow. The windows were all dark. Sighing, Karen pulled up the trunk lid. As the tiny trunk light came on, the boy's body came slowly into view. The body was folded neatly in the trunk, the arms tucked underneath. From out of the deep shadows, the boy's lifeless eyes stared up at Karen. Karen opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. Chapter 2. A low, terrified moan escaped Karen's throat. In the dim light, the body in the trunk appeared to shift. Or was it her imagination? Micah, help me! Her cry came out a whisper, blown back in her face by a wet gust of wind. And then Karen recognized the body. A dummy, a mannequin. The dumb department store mannequin her brother Chris had found years ago in a trash dump, and had carried home to keep in his room. Karen uttered an angry cry. She grabbed the plastic scraper and slammed the trunk lid shut, bouncing the car. Chris and his stupid practical jokes. He knew the mannequin would scare her to death, especially in the stressed-out state she'd been in. Why did Chris think it was such a ride to frighten her? He was older, bigger, smarter. He was already in college. He had a million friends and lots of girlfriends. So why did he have to prove how superior he was, with all the dumb practical jokes he was always pulling? I'll pay him back, Karen thought. I'll find a way to get him. She slipped as she headed toward the windshield. Her feet started to slide out from under her, and she stumbled forward onto the hood of the car. Pushing herself up with both hands, she quickly brushed the wet snow off the front of her sweater. Then she began scraping the windshield. She felt cold droplets of snow in her hair that poked out from under the wool cap. Snowflakes clung to her eyelashes, making her blink as she worked to clear the windshield. Even 3 layers of sweaters couldn't keep out the cold. Micah is right. This is really crazy, Karen thought. We should have rented a movie and stayed in the nice, warm house. But I couldn't, Karen realized. I couldn't just sit home thinking Ethan had lied to me, wondering where he was, wondering what he was doing, and with whom. As she scraped the passenger's side, Micah came into view. She was huddled low on the seat, staring out questioningly at Karen, her head buried in her coat collar, her hands shoved into her coat pockets. I really took Ethan for granted, Karen thought, up until now, up until tonight. I guess I didn't realize how much he means to me until now. My life was really empty until Ethan and I started going together last year. Karen and Micah had only been friends since the start of the school year. Before Ethan, Karen had spent a lot of lonely time. Her parents had had an angry divorce 3 years before. Karen's father had left home without even saying goodbye to her. Karen had always had an intense personality. She took things seriously. She was always trying to figure out what people really meant by the things they said or did. Her mother seemed to take the divorce better than Karen did. Karen had received only 2 letters from her father in 3 years. Now the house was empty most of the time. Mrs. Masters had to work long hours at the department store, where she was a floor manager, and Karen's big brother Chris was always busy with his college friends. Ethan had saved Karen from her loneliness. He was good for her. He was funny and outgoing and playful. He knew how to have fun. He kept her from getting too serious, too intense. They took long bike rides along the river. They loved to ride to the high peak that overlooked town and gaze down at the tiny houses and shops below them. They both loved trivia games. They played Trivial Pursuit until the cards were ragged and bent. Karen taught Ethan chess. They both enjoyed quiet, rainy evenings, staring at each other over the chessboard. So many good times they had shared. They had become so close, so close. But tonight he had dumped her for Wendy Talbot. Karen knew he had. She just knew it. And here she was, in the middle of a snowstorm, parked on the hill above his house, waiting. Waiting for what? Suddenly, the driver's window slid down, startling Karen from her thoughts. Micah, leaning over the seat, poked her head out. "Hey, you don't have to scrape off the glass." "Oh, yeah, right." Karen hadn't realized the windshield was nearly cleared. "Get in," Micah called. Karen obediently climbed in behind the wheel, quickly pulling the door shut. She dropped the scraper onto the floor beside Micah. "Oh, I can't stop shivering," she said, brushing snow off her wool cap. "I have to turn on the heat. If we run out of gas—" "I have an idea," Micah interrupted. "Let's drive to the Sizzler." "Huh?" Karen hugged herself, trying to warm up. She was breathing hard, and her breath was steaming off the windshield. "Drive to the Sizzler," Micah repeated. "If you see that Ethan is hard at work there, you'll feel better. Then we'll go to my house and make a fire, and try to warm up." But, Karen hesitated, her mind spinning. "What if Ethan sees me? He'll know I was spying on him, or what if he isn't there, Micah? Really, I couldn't stand it if he wasn't there. Karen, do you want to know the truth or not?" Micah demanded. Karen couldn't reply. She wasn't sure what she wanted to know. "Maybe we should just go home," she muttered unhappily. Micah started to reply, but bright lights against the windshield made her stop. Both girls ducked low as white headlights shone through the car. A car roared past, speeding over the snow-covered street, down the hill. At the bottom of the hill, its brake lights went on, and the car slid wildly, spun all the way around, then swerved into the Parkers' driveway. "It's him," Karen murmured, immediately recognizing Ethan's red Bonneville. "Does he always drive like that?" Micah demanded, rolling her eyes. "Shh," Karen whispered. Through the snow-dotted windshield, she could see Ethan climb out of his car and jog through the bright rectangle of light to his front door. "Can we go now?" Micah whispered. "You saw him. You didn't prove anything, but you saw him." "What time is it?" Karen demanded, her dark eyes peering down the hill. Ethan had disappeared into the house, but she kept staring at the front stoop anyway. "It's too dark. I can't see my watch," Micah replied, holding her watch out close to her face. Karen flicked on the overhead light. "It's 11:20, Micah told her. "I knew it!" Karen cried unhappily. "He was out with Wendy." "Huh? How do you know?" Micah asked. "The late shift at the Sizzler doesn't end until 12. He shouldn't be home until 12:30 at the earliest." "Karen," Micah exclaimed, "you mean you were going to keep us sitting here another hour? I don't believe you. I really don't." Karen didn't reply. Her gloved hand trembled as she turned the ignition. The Corolla started right up. She jammed it into gear and slammed her foot down on the gas. "Karen, not so fast. It's slippery," Micah cried shrilly. Karen ignored her and lowered her foot on the pedal. The tires spun as the car zigzagged down the hill. Karen kept her eyes narrowed straight ahead as they sped past Ethan's house. She turned the wheel hard to pull out of a skid, then made a sharp right. "Karen, slow down. I mean it." "I don't feel cold anymore," Karen realized. I stopped shivering. "I'm too angry to feel cold. I feel only anger. Anger and hurt." "Karen, what is wrong with you?" Micah shrieked. The white light appeared without warning, twin headlights invading the car, momentarily blinding Karen. She gasped and raised a gloved hand to shield her eyes. The headlights grew brighter as the oncoming car roared closer. Slow down. Karen pumped the brake, but her car went into a skid, sliding toward the center of the street. Her car slid sideways. Karen frantically spun the wheel, trying to straighten the car out. Out of control. I'm out of control. The white light rolled over her like an ocean wave. I can't see. The crunch of metal and glass nearly drowned out her scream. Chapter 3. Karen and Micah were both screaming as the car slid crazily over the street. Karen's foot pressed the brake down as far as it would go. Both girls were jolted forward, then sharply back. The bright headlights vanished from the windshield, casting them in darkness. The car made a half spin and stopped at the snow-banked curb. Out of control, Karen murmured. Out of control. Are you okay? Micah asked in a trembling voice. Yeah, I guess, Karen managed to reply. But the crash, I heard... I thought, Micah stammered. She tugged at the sides of her hair with both hands, as if holding on for dear life. Karen stared blankly at the dark windshield. Did we crash? Is the car wrecked? Without waiting for an answer, she pushed open her door and took deep breaths of the cold air. Oh, look! She pointed across the snowy street. Micah leaned over to follow her friend's gaze. The other car had collided with a telephone pole. The crash of metal, the shattering glass. It had come from the other car. We're okay, Karen thought gratefully. We are perfectly okay. But an inner voice kept her from rejoicing. You wanted to crash, the inner voice accused. You were so upset about Ethan, you wanted to crash. Forcing away those thoughts, she wondered if the driver in the other car was okay. She watched the large man climb out of the car. His boots crunched over the snow as he lumbered toward Karen. Are you all right? He called, shouting over the swirling wind. Karen started to climb out, but the seatbelt held her back. Yeah, we're okay. Your car? Headlight is smashed, that's all. The man stopped a few feet from Karen. He was wearing an enormous coat of some kind of shaggy fur. It made him look like a bear. Snowflakes clung to his glasses. Sure you're okay? Yeah, we didn't hit anything, just slid, Karen replied, shivering. I'm sorry. Not really your fault, the man said. I was going too fast. He motioned for her to close the door. You can just leave. I'll get home okay. It's only a couple of blocks. Karen watched the man walk back to his car, the big fur coat ballooning in the wind. Then she slammed her door shut and slowly backed the car from the curb. You want me to drive? Micah asked. Karen could feel Micah's eyes on her, studying her. I'm okay, Karen told her. I'll go slow. Promise. Karen eased the car through a stop sign and made a careful left turn. This was a fun night, Micah muttered sarcastically. It's all Ethan's fault, Karen replied, surprised at her own bitterness. Huh? It's all Ethan's fault, Karen repeated. He can't do this to me. Do you want to talk about this? Micah asked, her expression tight with concern. No, I don't think so, Karen replied softly, her eyes straight ahead on the snow-covered road. Karen dropped Micah at her house, then hurried home. The snow was turning to frozen sleet as she parked the car in the driveway and let herself in through the kitchen door. The back of the house was dark. She stopped inside the doorway to pull off her wool cap and boots. Leaving them near the door, she brushed the cold snow from the front of her short, dark hair with one hand. Then, with a shiver, she made her way to the front stairs. Her mother's bedroom door was closed. Mom must have gone to bed early, Karen decided. Upstairs, Chris's door was closed too. She could hear voices from the TV in there. Laughter. Saturday Night Live. Chris loved comedy shows. Sometimes he laughed till he had tears in his eyes and couldn't breathe, and Karen would just be sitting there blankly, wondering what he found so funny. As she passed his bedroom, she suddenly remembered the mannequin stuffed in her trunk. What a dumb joke. She had an impulse to throw open his door and tell him how stupid he was. Chris was on his winter break from school. That meant he had a lot of time on his hands. Karen wasn't sure she could take 2 more weeks of his awful practical jokes. She hesitated, shivering, her hands and feet nearly numb with cold. Should she go in and get on his case? I think I'd rather just get under the covers and warm up, she decided. The sound of audience laughter on the TV followed her down the hall. It was warm in her room. Heat poured up from the floor register. Sleet pattered hard against the window. Karen hurried to pull the curtains. She changed quickly into a long flannel nightshirt, tossing her sweaters and black leggings onto the chair beside her desk. I'm never going to get warm, she thought, still shivering. Never. She pulled back the quilt on top of her bed and was about to climb under the covers when the phone rang. Startled, she jumped at the sound, and glanced at the clock radio beside her bed, 10 after 12. Who would be calling this late, she wondered. She picked up the receiver midway through the second ring. Hello? Micah? No, rasped a deep voice. This is your worst nightmare calling. Chapter 4. Huh? Karen gripped the receiver tightly in her cold hand. Who is this? Your worst nightmare, the deep voice repeated menacingly. Karen laughed. Oh, hi. How are you? She cried. Okay, the voice replied uncertainly. Adam, is your family all moved in? Are you in your new house? Karen asked, carrying the phone over to the bed and tucking her cold feet under her as she sat on top of the quilt. Yeah, we're here, her cousin replied. I can't believe we're back in Thompson Falls. I can't believe it either, Karen said brightly. Just like when we were kids. Mom and Dad used to... Have you heard from your dad lately? Adam interrupted. No, he doesn't write, Karen muttered, then quickly changed the subject. So, how is everything, Adam? Do you like the new house? I don't know, Adam replied. It makes funny noises, like groaning and moaning sounds. It's probably haunted. Or it was built on an Indian burial ground or something, and we're all going to be slaughtered in our sleep. Karen snickered. You're as cheerful as ever, Adam, she said sarcastically. Thanks. How's Chris? How does he like college? You know Chris, Karen replied. He's fine. He's always fine. He breezes right through everything. You still going with that long-haired freak? Adam demanded. Karen felt her face grow hot. She had momentarily forgotten how upset and angry she was at Ethan. You mean Ethan? He isn't a long-haired freak, she said defensively. Just because he has long hair doesn't mean... Isn't he a little too good-looking for you? Adam teased. Karen didn't reply. She wasn't in the mood for her cousins kidding around, and she especially wasn't in any mood for jokes about Ethan. She and Adam were nearly the same age. They were both seniors. They had grown up together and had been fairly close, even though they didn't have much in common. They would study together and go to the movies when there was nothing better to do. Then Adam and his family had moved away from Thompson Falls. Adam, it's really late, she said. Midnight is late? Adam laughed scornfully. Then his tone changed suddenly. Can you do me a favor, Karen? Sure. What? Monday will be my first day at school. I hate coming into a new school in the middle of the year. I mean, I won't know where anything is. I won't even be able to find the boys' room. Do you think if I get there early, you could give me a quick tour Monday morning? Sure, no problem, Karen replied. Meet me a little after 8, okay? Just inside the front door. Hey, that's great, Adam told her. He sounded truly grateful. Adam always was shy, Karen remembered. Moving to a new high school as a senior probably has him really stressed out. I'll introduce you to some kids too, Karen promised. I want you to meet my friend, Micah. Yeah, okay. Everyone's probably forgotten me, Adam said with a trace of sadness. I've been away so many years, since 6th grade. He was always kind of a strange guy, Karen remembered. He never had many friends. See you Monday morning, she told him, yawning. Right, and thanks again, Karen. See you Monday morning. He clicked off. Karen carried the phone back to her desk, then wearily climbed into bed. Yawning loudly, she forced herself not to think about Ethan. Ethan and Wendy. Ethan and Wendy. With their faces floating in her mind, she fell into a dreamless sleep. She slept late on Sunday morning. It was a little after 11 o'clock when she came down for breakfast, dressed in gray sweats. Chris was at the kitchen table, his back to Karen, starting his breakfast. He wore a maroon sweatshirt over faded jeans. Mrs. Masters was bent over the dishwasher, loading some dirty plates. Morning, Karen muttered. Ow, my eye, he cried. My eye, it's running. He whipped around to face her. He had placed an entire fried egg over his eye. Karen laughed. She hated to encourage him, but it looked really funny. You're sick, she told him. She slapped his shoulder really hard, making the egg fall into his lap. Chris, grow up, Mrs. Masters said sharply, her hands on her slender hips, a disapproving frown on her face. I mean, really, how can you be 19 years old and still be putting fried eggs on your face? Easy, Chris replied, winking at Karen. Want my egg? He asked, only slightly used. You want eggs, Karen? Her mother asked, closing the dishwasher. No. Think I'll just make a Pop-Tart or something, Karen said. A Pop-Tart? Since when are you such a health nut? Chris joked. Well, I'm going to run to the mall, Mrs. Masters said, drying her hands. She looked like she could be Karen's older sister. They had the same pale, delicate skin, The same dark brown eyes and brown hair, the same slender, almost fragile figures. Sunday is my only day to do any shopping. Poor Mom! Chris grinned at her. He had yellow egg on his teeth. Don't make fun of me, Mrs. Masters scolded, giving the back of his head a playful slap as she passed the table. Chris rubbed his head. Hey, sometimes I get tired of making fun of Karen, you know? He turned to Karen. Have you seen my dummy anywhere? Oh, shut up, Chris, Karen cried angrily. You scared me to death with that thing last night. Chris laughed gleefully. The body in the trunk, he cried, in his imitation of an eerie monster voice. You're not funny, really. You're just a pain, Karen told him. She ate her breakfast standing at the sink, 2 strawberry-filled Pop-Tarts and a glass of cranberry juice. Then she settled down on the couch in the den, her father's old study, to call Micah. They talked a little bit about the night before. Then Karen told her about her cousin Adam. He moved into an old house on Monroe, she told Micah. Yeah, it's just 3 or 4 blocks from here. Isn't that weird? He hasn't lived in Thompson Falls since 6th grade. He's starting school on Monday. Oh, he's so weird, Micah exclaimed. Then she quickly caught herself. No offense, Karen. I mean, I know Adam is your cousin, but he's definitely weird. He's not weird, Karen insisted. He's just shy. He's terribly shy, Micah. Micah was silent for a moment. Does Adam still spend all his time reading those old horror comics and watching old horror movies? She asked. I don't know, Karen told her. I haven't seen him for ages. I know he used to collect all kinds of horror stuff. He was always really into it. Remember that creepy Halloween costume he made for himself when we were in 5th grade? The one with the green slime pouring out of its nose and mouth? I always thought he was kind of creepy, Micah confessed. But he's probably changed. I want you to be nice to him, Karen instructed, twisting the phone cord around her slender wrist. He doesn't know anyone. Can you imagine? It's your senior year, and you have to leave all your friends behind and move to a new place? I still think he's weird, Micah replied. But I'll try to be friendly, give him a break. Maybe he's gotten cute. Karen suddenly heard a loud ringing sound. What on earth is that? She asked. Micah let out a groan. It's these hideous chimes my father bought. They go off every hour. They're really gross, but he loves them. Guess it must be 12 o'clock. She shouted something to her mother. Then she returned her attention to Karen. Have you heard from Ethan? Karen unwrapped the phone cord from her wrist. She had been lying over the arm of the couch. She sat up. No, not yet. You know Ethan. He'll probably sleep till noon. You're feeling better? About things? Micah demanded. Yeah, I guess, Karen told her. Yes, I do, really. She wasn't sure how she felt. She had been doing her best to shut Ethan out of her thoughts. I was really worried about you last night, Karen, Micah said with concern. You really weren't acting like yourself. The whole idea of spying on Ethan, it was so crazy. And then the way you drove, I'm feeling a lot better about things, Karen said. You don't have to worry. I was thinking about it last night before I fell asleep. You know what I decided, Micah? What? I decided that Ethan cares too much about me. He wouldn't go out with Wendy Talbot. I don't know what I was thinking of, but I know I'm right. I know how much Ethan and I mean to each other, and I know Ethan would never do that to me. Karen glanced toward the doorway and cried out in surprise. Ethan took a reluctant step into the room, a troubled expression on his face. How long has he been listening? Karen wondered. She still held the phone to her ear. Ethan, what are you doing here? She asked, unable to hide her surprise. He lowered his eyes, avoiding her stare. Karen, we've got to talk.